Oh, pal.
It's another day, you know?
Another day, another podcast.
I must say the day is quite Swir.
It's a little bright.
It's a wonderful morning.
It's a little bright, but I can't complain. There's no sun.
Yeah, we actually timed ourselves a little better this time, you know? It's pretty nice, you know?
It's like we're getting some sort of
Some kind of groove or
some
something.
sort of system going, you know?
It is like a system, really.
It's almost like a standard of
Operating procedure. Standard out of...
standard of procedure.
You got your SOPs.
Well, this podcast is brought to you by Topo Chico.
Not a sponsor.
They're great. They keep you refreshed.
Yes. And we don't have any openers, so while I do the intros, he's going to open it with a knife. Hi, and welcome to Swircast episode 5 with your weekly hosts. I, the lovable and affable George O'Mara, and the laughable Mark O'Mara, also known as Sweaty.
Yes, I am sweaty.
Yeah, he's sweaty.
Dude, we're going to be like not
Cheers.
outside sweaty at all, and we're still going to keep that one, dude.
Yeah, we will, dude.
From episode 1.
From episode 1.
We're kind of about continuity, guys. I should have brought a rag, dude.
Yeah.
I should have grabbed them before we whatever.
Gotta add that to the SOP.
You know what? We're here, and
Hey, got your standard housekeeping, okay? You know, we're streaming on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And we will be adding an exciting new third stream, so we'll have that update for you in the coming week. But
follow us on our Twitter, and we'll keep you guys updated with all that stuff. We're also planning on, with the live stream, doing more of a weekly kind of schedule, so you guys know what to look forward to
yes,
for the week. And so, yeah, just follow us on Twitter, and that's really where all of our updates for everything is. So.
you can expect to see all of our socials and everything continue to get updated. More info, more to look forward to. It's Swir.
And I think the most important part, really, for me pointing out this Twitter, is giving you our Twitter handle. We're at Swir Media on Twitter.
That's SWIR, Swir Media.
That is S as in Sahara, W as in waterfall, I as in introspective, R as in retrospective. No, I'm just saying. Dude, why are you doing that, and why are you using those words?
So hey, why not? Let's jump into your news. We got your news today. News. Rumor has it that there's a new Games Pass game that's going to get added. Game Rant reported that there's a suggestion that it might be getting an exclusive, potentially in the form of a PlayStation console exclusive game. It's very interesting. We've been seeing a lot of crossover with this. We've been seeing PlayStation. Oh, hey, it's our buddy.
Oh, it's a Beto.
Oh, hello, dude. He's just chilling up there. We've been seeing a lot of this crossover happening with PlayStation putting God of War on PC, so it wouldn't be too far removed. Also Horizon. Not too far removed to see another PlayStation exclusive. And now we have actual confirmation of this rumor in the form of a tweet from this morning from the actual PC Games Pass Twitter account that says, quote, special delivery. And there's a photo attached. It had a photo of what looked to be what's the fellow's name again?
Sam Porter Bridges.
Yeah, Sam Porter Bridges. You got your SPG or SPB there. You know, you got SPB holding a little case, and on it said PC Games Pass August 23rd.
That's soon. It's about a week.
Isn't that on Monday?
Yeah, I believe so.
So that's exciting.
Yeah, the big deal with this is not that it's coming to PC because it's already on PC. It's more so that it's coming to Games Pass. So it's more the fact that there's,
Correct.
you know, Xbox has been positioning itself in this position for games as a service and all of that, and this seems like the first step really leading there.
Yeah.
That's not the first step. It seems like the next step, rather, to be more specific, because they've been taking a lot of steps in that direction. But it just seems like the next big one because it's it is really negating the whole console war, you know, perspective of everything, because they're just fuck it, let's put a PlayStation game on our Games Pass. It's on PC.
It's all about intellectual property at this
Yeah.
point. So that's our game, and you can play it anywhere you want. But don't forget, it's PlayStation.
Yeah.
You know, so that's
Maybe we get a
trip.
PlayStation Games Pass. No,
Hey,
I'm just
it's only so long until we see
I think they're gonna
PlayStation games on Nintendo and Nintendo on
I
Xbox.
wonder if Games Pass is going to go on shit like that. That'd be interesting.
I could see that.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking of PlayStation, speaking of games as a service,
Yes.
speaking of, all that surrounds. PlayStation Plus Extra. Okay, it's they started doing the whole new tier thing where there's PlayStation Plus and there's like the Extra. You get like a whole games catalog thing, and I can't remember how the tier list gets broken down. But you get a bunch of games, and then Premium you get even more games, and then there's also the backward compatibility shit. But for the PlayStation Extra, they added 12 new games. They added Bug Snacks. They added Dead by Daylight, Everspace, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Metro Exodus, Monopoly Madness, Monopoly Plus. They also added Trials of Mana, Uno, and Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2. So that's cool.
Very nice.
Not really anything there for me personally I want to check out, but I'm sure there's a lot of people want to check that stuff out. But more importantly, I think this is kind of a notable newsworthy topic because that's kind of something that was in the air once they started doing this. Like they did the PlayStation Plus like essentials,
Like the launch.
like for the PS5, the launch shit, and like it was like a little collection of games and stuff. There's like Monster Hunter World and Last of Us, I think, and stuff like that. Bloodborne, but they never like added anything to it, so it was like not really worth it. Like in the long term, it wasn't really worth it. But this is cool because it's like, dude, okay, so they reformatted and like it's clear that they're going to be adding more stuff. So I just hope they add more like backwards compatible stuff because that's really what I'm like looking for right now.
We're all looking to see these services grow. I think that's what's going to keep them going. Like
So it's
we
going to
got
get
to see them add because it feels like like PlayStation has some catching up to do, and it looks like they're doing some work, so that's good. In other news, in keeping with our online gaming services, Nintendo Switch Online added Wave Race 64 to the N64 catalog. So go play it. I might play some of that later today, with some buddies, some peoples. I'll take this next one too, because the other one was like literally it's a sentence. I don't feel like I got my word in edgeways, Capcom, Square Enix, Kojima Productions, Sega, and more will attend Tokyo Game Show VR for this year. So, Twinfinite reported on this. They said that apparently that there's all those, and there's also Tecmo Games and Bandai Namco. A lot of different companies going to this VR Tokyo Game Show, which is a big deal. Apparently, last time that they ran it, 90% of them said that they were going to return back. That they loved the whole game show, and they wanted to keep seeing it grow. So it's exciting to see because VR is a growing market. It's a growing, I don't want to say medium, but I mean I guess like subsect of video games. And as someone who's played a decent amount of VR at this point, I think it has a long way to go still, but it's very exciting because the things when they get it right. It feels different. It's fun. It's a different experience.
Because the whole point of like a lot of this stuff is to like it has that transporting effect. Like the reason why we watch movies is because they transport you. And it's not blanketed like everything you go to is to transport. There's different reasons, but a lot of this stuff is to like transport you to another world or like experience something that's not feasible in reality or whatever. And like when you're in VR, it's the most tangible. And like you can actually affect it, and you can literally like walk up and grab it and like tilt it the way you want to tilt it.
Yeah,
which is something that
when it's done right.
When it's done right, because there are a lot of VR games that just don't have a lot of interactivity, which is like sad.
You could tell the whole industry.
They're figuring out what's
infancy in many regards.
They're figuring out the staples. Like whenever I get something and I can't like pick up like random shit in the world, I'm like, dude, why didn't you guys do that?
Your hand goes through it and you're like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, you like
that would have taken a whole month for us to be able to.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
next one. You can take it.
Microsoft. This was from Tech Radar that we read this from, but Microsoft had confirmed some information about the last console, sales and all of that. And they did it while still not giving out their numbers.
Yeah, it was surprisingly enough, right?
Which was kind of funny.
Just so business.
Yeah, they're like, it was bad, but
like we reported heavy losses.
They're like, but you don't need to know how heavy.
We had marginal profits. You're like, wait, that's contradictory. They're like, we can't show you our numbers.
Like, no.
That's not happening.
But essentially, the whole thing they revealed was basically that like PlayStation completely demolished them in the last generation with like their sales.
Yeah.
Like they sold like what was it? We have it here. Yeah, we don't have it here, but it's
2-1.
It was 2-1. No, but they gave the number for PlayStation. It was like 117.
Oh, you're talking
million units that they sold for PlayStation, and so the 2-1 people are like kind of guesstimating
where the Xbox one
yeah,
did,
and it was something around like they sold like 58.6 or something like that. It's like it's a lot, but it's still like nothing compared to 117 million units. Like it's fucking ridiculous.
PlayStation was incredibly dominant during that.
But yeah,
that
it doesn't look like it's really going that way this time. I don't think anyone's really selling anything right now though, because it's like the whole silicone shortage and all of that stuff.
Well, there's that, and it's also
like
this recession that we're going through with this pandemic with your inflation. Well, we don't have the recession yet, but it's gonna hit.
It's gonna hit there. It's gonna hit. But also there's just, I mean, like it's the most front, like I think surface level like factor, but it's just all the transporting of goods and stuff. It's like the processes were already long to like check all of the like cargo and make sure all of the materials that are getting transported around the world are getting, but it's like now they got to do that and clean everything. It's like
exactly,
everything's like so slowed down. I remember when we were living in Long Beach, just like the whole dude, that was nutty seeing that. Like the whole coastline, like it was usually empty. It was like really, you could just see out in the ocean, you could see everything, you could see the sky and all that shit. And the second pandemic hit, dude, because there's like the San Pedro like you know, cargo and all that shit like pretty close by. You could see it like from the coast and all that, and like dude, it got so full. Like I remember at night, and I'm sure you remember this too, just driving down like Ocean Boulevard, dude. Yeah. Like you look out in the ocean, and it literally looked like there was like a city out there, dude. It was actually pretty cool.
It was cool, but it was haunting because I remember when it was declared an actual pandemic, everything changed literally overnight. Mm-hmm. And I remember that feeling of like, okay, the streets are like empty.
That was nice though.
Like that part was nice, but like it was haunting.
Yeah.
So it's like streets are empty, no one's outside walking, beach is pretty quiet, there's boats everywhere.
There's just something there's something about the world going through something and seeing the world reacting to it, like literally all at once. It's like, I don't know, it was freaking crazy, but yeah, but like
anyway, PlayStation, they railed Microsoft.
Fucking slayed, dude. Okay, they killed them, but yeah.
Anyway, you know what else killed? Lord of the Rings. It killed Peter Jackson inside, apparently, because when he released it, he didn't get to experience it for the first time like we all did. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys are blessed because you don't work on it for 6 to 7 years. You put out a transformative body of work that do something to you. And so Peter Jackson, he actually came out, apparently IGN talked to him, he came out and talked about how he actually did consider going to get some hypnotherapy.
Oh.
Yeah, he went for the big H to help forget the films and the work he did over the last 6 to 7 years so he could sit down and actually enjoy them. He said, quote, I didn't follow through with it, but I did talk to the British mentalist Darren Brown about that, and he thought he could do it. And so he apparently, you work on something like that for 6 to 7 years, and then everyone talks about how amazing it is, and he couldn't even sit down to enjoy that. Like he had actually like got to him mentally, to the point where he was trying to find ways to do it, and he decided not to, obviously, which I think is the right decision.
Yeah, you don't throw that.
I appreciate him talking about it because that's a very specific and in a very vulnerable kind of
personal,
a very personal, creative struggle and like pain to deal with. You give birth to something like that. It wasn't just him. I could imagine, everyone felt like that way to a degree, but he was the director. He's the one overseeing everything. Yeah.
He saw every process. Yeah. There's something in the article too where he was talking about just even how it came out. He's like the movie came out. He's like, and for a lot of people, it kind of came out of the blue.
Yeah.
And they were like, whoa, like they made a movie on this book, and then they were like, whoa, the movie's this produced. It's so good, and it's like, Lord of the Rings is what it is now. He's like, and I never got to experience that. He's like, because by the time it came out and people were like, whoa, you were working on this? He's like, yeah, I was working on it for like 5 to 6 years.
It's insane.
It's a long time to be like, elbow deep in a project,
I respect it, man.
Yeah, I do. It's
if that's a pain that comes with doing something like that, then bring it on. But yeah, apparently regards to the whole new Lord of the Rings Amazon show, They asked him, like, what do you think of that? Will you be watching? He goes, he said, quote, "I will be watching it." He told the Hollywood Reporter. He said, quote, "I'm not the sort of guy who wishes ill will. Filmmaking is hard enough. If someone makes a good film or TV show, it's something to celebrate. The one thing I am looking forward to is actually seeing it as a perfectly neutral viewer."
Oh, dude, he's kind of getting his little dream come true, dude.
Yes.
He's like, I get to see it. Aww.
Right. But to me, that's so like, it's so sweet and endearing, but I love the sentiment where it's like, dude, creating stuff is hard. We should celebrate when things are creative. It's kind of like when Dad told us, he's like, whenever someone draws something, everyone should be excited about that. Like, you drew that? Like, that's awesome. Like, he goes, it should always be that.
Yeah.
Because then you get to iterate and you come back to it.
Because even if it's not good and stuff, it's like, you gotta understand, like, it's an expression. Like, there's a level of, like you even said with this whole thing, there's a level of vulnerability with all that stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I agree. to like not
gotta love the Jackson.
Gotta love the Jackson.
Mr. Jackman.
Little Pete jackass.
All right, we got a few more topics. We're gonna run through these.
Another news.
Hit me with it.
Elden Ring. I don't know if you heard about this. It's kind of a big deal. Kind of, a little bit. Elden Ring sold just under 17 million copies in its 6 months. In its first 6 months.
Wow.
It's only been 6 months in release, dude. Like, that's just really sunk in. I feel like that game came out a little while ago at this point, too. Man, that was an interesting time.
That was a very interesting time.
But yeah, they sold just under 17 million, which is a huge deal for them for only one title, like one individual IP, and not even that IP, just one individual product. Because like their history with even Dark Souls, like they sold about 27 million for every single Dark Souls combined.
Over all the years it's been out.
All the years.
Goodness.
Like Dark Souls started like 2010?
Yeah, I want to say it was around there somewhere.
9-10 or something?
Yeah.
Like from then to like 2016, I think is when 3 came out.
I want to say Dark Souls was 11, maybe, because I want to say.
Yeah, I think you might.
Wasn't Demon Souls 8 or 9?
But still, it's like even Demon Souls.
But that's
insane,
though, dude.
All of that is like I see a Demon Souls and the Dark Souls games as like one through line of like production and like just an idea trying to get refined. You know what I mean? And also tested in other ways because like they didn't just refine it; they also did different things with like the different games and stuff. But yeah, that's crazy. I'm really happy for that. FromSoft is, you know, as you guys will hear as time goes on, they're one of our favorite developers. They just, you know, I think without wasting a lot of breath trying to explain how great it is, like check out this one channel called Vati Vidya. Mm-hmm. He goes over all the lore and stuff. That's a big reason why. But there's also he'll show the little nuanced details and even just like animations for like a moment on a character. Like you do a little part of a quest and then like their animation changes a bit because it like reflects the story. And there's an immaculate amount of attention to detail in these games. And
yeah, the world building is astounding.
And it shows in every sense. It shows from the world building, it shows in the story, it shows in the item descriptions,
the
it
gameplay,
shows
everything. In
the way the enemies function. Yeah, it's FromSoft is amazing. So I'm really happy that they're able to do that. Elden Ring was great. I think for them taking that open world, they got an astonishing amount of things right. And yeah, I'm stoked to see what they do with Elden Ring. Like they're probably going to do another one. They're also working on like DLC.
Yes, that's
confirmed, right?
I don't know if it was confirmed, but that's what word around the street is. From what I know.
I thought it was confirmed, but yeah,
it may have been.
They're probably. I can't see them not working on stuff for this. They like Miyazaki.
What is confirmed is that they have another game that is like completed. Almost completed, if not completed.
And Miyazaki also did talk about how Elden Ring is supposed to be the new Dark Souls. Like spiritual Dark Souls in a sense. He's like, it's a whole new lore. He's like, we're going darker with it. We're going even deeper with it. It's more brutal. It's more, and like it does show. You can see that. He's like, but yeah, that's like the new Dark Souls. Essentially, that's what they're going to be doing and what they're going to be focusing on. So they're going to make multiples. Like they're going to make more of them.
Absolutely.
But for me, I'm like that.
Play them.
Yeah, but for me, I'm like that being their Dark Souls. I can't fathom they're not going to make DLC for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The only game they didn't do that for was Sekiro, and that was because Sekiro was like a test. But yeah, speaking of Sekiro, that only sold 5 million copies.
Insane,
as of the summer of 2020, dude.
And that's not a number
That's
to
like,
laugh
that's like
at,
a
but
year. That's like a year from its release.
and what's a trip to me is that's because these are not.
These are big numbers.
These are big numbers, but then when you have the perspective of knowing Elden Ring's been out for 6 months only, and they've gotten 15 million, like just under that.
Well, 17. That's what it says here.
It says 17. Oh my gosh, dude! I have it right here. What am I doing, folks?
It's 16.6 million.
That's insane.
Specifically,
dude.
it's 16.6.
That makes me very happy. You know, I hope that they continue to put out quality content as they have.
I hope they don't
so
get up
far.
their ass.
And the one thing I can say is I hope that they're treating all their own well, as we hope all the time. So we know these games aren't made by just Miyazaki or just one person. It's a team. So in other news, IGN reports that Call of Duty Warzone announces their 5th and final season. Wow. F's in chat for the 5th and final season, right?
You know why? I think I fucking figured it out,
Well,
actually.
hold on. Let me, because I'm not done with my news.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's all good. It's all good. Yeah.
Oh, I think you have it in here.
Activision has announced that the final season will begin on August 24th, which has the implication that there will be a release of Warzone 2 right around the corner. Yes, that's right. We're going to have probably a sequel to this. Why wouldn't they? It's wildly popular.
They're not going to kill their battle royale.
They're not going to do that. Why would they do that?
Dude, that probably makes so much money for them. Wasn't AJ telling us about that? He ran into one of the devs.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I bet you that's.
Listen, we got people in places. We got canaries in coal mines. You know, we've got things going on. All right. You know, word around the street is,
Listen.
you know, a little birdie told us.
Listen.
You know,
we know.
we know.
We know things.
Listen.
Okay?
You don't have to worry about it. That's why we're here. We're talking to you.
Right now,
You know.
I just thought about a thing I know.
What do you know?
I don't want to say.
Perfect.
All right.
Listen, but before, so I can close this up, and then you can get to your last topic here, or your last news. It was announced on the game's website the final season is going to be called Last Stand, and is centered around a league of Call of Duty villains led by Black Ops 2 Raul Menendez,
Oh, dude, I fucking love that. Dude.
the original Modern Warfare's Khalid Al-Assad, and also will be making an appearance alongside Ghost's Gabriel T. Rourke and Black Ops 3 Seraph Zenzen? He's Seraph Zenzens. I don't know who that is. I didn't play Black Ops 3 campaign.
But I don't remember. I did play it. But
I played
remember
2. 2 was cool, and I stopped at that mission where they
2 was so good. Dude.
where they had me do that.
I
Like
fucking loved 2. It was because of the age I was. Too.
It was. There's that part in the campaign where you have to like move stuff around. It's like real time, turn based. Like you're, and I
in Black Ops 2.
I believe so. Yeah,
don't remember
there's a
doing
mission
that.
like that. Yeah. Where you have to like command like some of your units to like go forward, and like you're moving little things around, and like while you're like, I didn't like that.
Oh, I think it was that mission where you're like following that walker.
Yeah, it was
thing,
something like that.
and
That's
you're
where that's where I stopped playing.
I loved it, dude. I thought that game was so fucking good. I still
It
think,
was, but
I
I
still-
just stopped there. That's all I'm saying.
Dude, I think you missed so much shit, dude. Because
Yeah,
honestly,
you told me that then too.
that campaign
You
is
gotta
like
finish it, bro. And I'm like, I
that,
don't.
that campaign was so freaking good, dude. I remember playing that campaign like freaking like 3-4 times, dude.
Yeah, I remember you telling
Again,
me about
it is the age, dude.
was the
I
age.
recognize that. I'm glad they're like bringing Raul Menendez back though, dude, because he was fucking tight. He was really cool. Because Black Ops 1 and 2 has such a cool freaking story. And Black Ops, what was the last one? Cold War.
Yeah.
Also has a fantastic story, honestly.
Black Ops Cold War?
Yeah.
That was Black. That's right.
Okay.
That was Black Ops.
Did you beat the story on that one?
No, I did. Because remember what
It
happened?
is super short.
Do you remember what happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Your game like fucked.
Ladies
took
and
me
gentlemen,
out.
what happened is I played that. This is one of the first Call of Duty since I gave a chance again
This
in
was
the campaign.
This was also the thing though. Launch title for PS5.
That's fine, but what happened to me is so that way they understand. Okay, is that I literally got like from your words, you're like, oh dude, you're like 2 missions from the end. Okay, I got that far, and then my save like corrupted and bounced me back to the beginning, literally the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't play that.
It was really good though. I liked the story a lot. I thought it was pretty tight. Ending was cool. I think there's like multiple endings, but I got like the good one. Was there multiple? I can't remember, but it was good.
Why'd you play 3 times? Anyway, do you want to give us this last?
No, I'm talking about Cold War.
Oh, that one.
There were I could tell you for sure there were multiple endings in Black Ops 2, but there was like it was like the last decision you make in the game or something like that that like changed it. And it's like either you kill Raul or you let him live.
Well, that's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty game changing, dude. Because I want to say the whole implication was that like if you kill him, you kind of like become him, but if you let him live, you're like he gets his real justice.
Freaking r/I'm 14 and this is deep.
It was cool, dude. I like that game.
How old are you gonna play that?
When did it come out?
Black Ops 2.
It's 2012, right? I was 11.
No, wasn't. Was it? Black Ops 2. I want to check this.
And there's gonna be so many people that are like, wait, you were 11 in 2012? What the fuck?
Yeah, you
It's
were
like,
11.
yeah, dude. Time goes by. People
Freaking
get older, you know.
Friggin'
crazy how that works.
I'm 11 and this is deep. You want to get this last news stuff? Make it quick though, because we got to take in a mission.
How much time do we have, just so I know?
You have 2 minutes to give us this.
Okay, shit. Okay. Ready, set. High on Life, delayed to December. Okay. So High on Life, it's a game from Squanch Games, formerly Squanch Tendo. Squanch Games is basically Justin Roiland. He's the creator of one of the creators of Rick and Morty. It's a big show, all of that. I'm sure everyone's heard about it, but he has been working on games. I think everyone in the game industry pretty much knows this, but like I don't know, maybe someone doesn't. But like he's been working on games. He's done a few VR games. He did a couple. There's this one I can't remember what it was called, but it was like I just remember there's a part where there's like you're like in a body and there's like a skeleton. You're like there was VR. You're like playing like xylophone on their ribs and stuff. I can't remember what that game was called, but they made that one. Then they did the Trover Saves the Universe. They did the Rick and Morty like virtual Rickality or whatever the hell. And their next game, High on Life, is supposed to be like a first-person shooter deal. It's going to be like an action-adventure, kind of Metroidvania-esque kind of deal. But the big deal with this game is that like all the guns are like they're like an alien, and they're voiced by different like comedians and like
it's almost like Stranger's Wrath.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
your game's like
that
living.
Really is like that. Yeah, like the guns are alive, but like they have like JB Smoove, like he does like the voice for one of them and stuff, and like they have a bunch of other people. And obviously Justin Roiland does a bunch of voices.
Check
for
out
them
the trailer,
too.
people.
Seriously, check out the trailer because it looks great.
High on Life.
It looks like a game. But
Yes.
needless to say, the whole point being, it was originally announced to release on October 25th. Well, they decided to push it back to December 13th. Apparently the reason was they worked to polish for the best possible gaming experience, and that's pretty much all they said.
Yeah, hey.
They said they're really excited for you to play too, and they're thankful for your continued patience and support. So
Excellent.
it's pretty cool. But
Fantastic.
yeah, check out the trailers. Looks cool.
And hey,
It's probably going to be good, and we'll see what else.
hey,
Justin Roiland does.
listen. After you're done checking out that trailer later on, why don't you check out this music while we do an intermission right now?
Yeah, it should be fantastic.
Yeah, it should be fantastic.
And we're back.
We are. And we have topics for you today.
Wow, we have topics?
Wow,
No
topics.
Get your topics, eh?
And how much better is this from last week?
Oh, man, this
we
is
actually
so much
like it's like we
better.
know what we're talking about.
We
You know?
do. So you've been, while you're taking your topo cheeks, been reading some comics this week, haven't you, bud? Been doing some reading.
Oh yeah.
Just tell me about that.
So yeah, I've been getting back into reading. You know, well, it's been good.
Yeah, what you been reading?
I was actually going back to Dune recently too. I'm gonna get to these, but I figure start off.
You're like, guys, I'm reading Dune.
I'm reading Dune. No, I was going back to Dune. I was reading it, and then I stopped for a while, and yeah, I've just been going back to it recently, so I want to finish it off. Because I bought
Very exciting.
It's incredibly exciting. No, because I bought the whole series.
I know, I did too.
I know, I haven't read them yet.
Me neither. They're sitting there waiting for me to read.
Yeah, but it's
exciting.
pretty cool. So over the last week, really had time to read like two comics, really, like full comics. So I read the Tokyo Ghost. I don't know if anyone's heard about that. If you haven't, honestly, read it. It's really tight. It's because for me, I think over time we'll get into it more, but like in general, I prefer the like Japanese comics, like mangas and stuff like that. I feel like there's just a little bit more heart. There's a little bit more humanity to it. and you know that pays off in leaps and strides because like if the character is like really good, like you feel that it's not like a Superman where it's like, okay, yeah, he's good, like you know that intellectually, but like you don't feel it really a lot.
Yeah.
Not that you don't feel it with Superman, but it's different, you know. But it's also, it works in the opposite direction too, where it's like when there's like a really like fucked up character in like a manga, like you process it differently because of all of that like heart and humanity that's there. It's just, I don't know, I like it a lot more personally. It's just more my style, but that doesn't mean I don't read Western comics. I read a lot of them. That's where I started getting into comics and stuff. Tokyo Ghost, I think, it's an Image comic. I never really read Image comics until now. But I had been hearing about Tokyo Ghost for a while. It's written by Rick Remender. The artist was Sean Murphy, and then the colorist was Matt Hollingsworth. And it has really dope artwork. It has really cool colors too, obviously. It's good. Like, it has like a color palette, because that is a thing. Like, it has like a color palette and all that. But the writing is like, there's moments where it feels like Western comic, but then when you read the whole fucking story, you're like, okay, this is like a concise story. And like, I really appreciated that. Like,
so what's it about exactly?
It's basically, I was trying not to spoil it, but I don't.
Well, just the premise. Just the general premise.
General premise is that, you know, it's super futuristic, like social media and just media and all that is like so, it's so like dominant in the sense that like everyone is always like, they always have these little like holograms on, and it's like a million web pages open at once. Like they're always just like, it's like brain rot, right? It's just like shit like that. Or like there's like people that are like, oh, like I want to, like, instead of just like masturbating or whatever, they like hook themselves up to all this like freaking like machinery and stuff that like does it for them kind of deal. And then they're just like, they'll just like jack into that like hologram, like whatever, and it's just like all of it. It's like 5 videos at once. It's like information like overload. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like a big deal with it. And a lot of that's because of like, you know, they do like these, they have all this like nanotech and stuff like that they're injecting into people to like make them like stronger or better and stuff. And that's kind of like a big thing. There's like this company called the Flack Corporation. And basically they're kind of like a Vought from like The Boys almost. But obviously it's very different. It's way more futuristic and way more like ahead kind of deal. But it's kind of the same idea where it's like they're a company that, though it's not like a super soldier serum essentially, it's more like it's like a little serum of like nanotech, like little robots and stuff. And basically they end up like injecting that, and it's like a drug, and it does all sorts of shit. You know what I mean? Like it'll make you like stronger, it'll make you bigger, it'll do like all sorts of shit. It'll help, like one of the dudes, like he literally has like a fucking power glove, dude. like the Nintendo Power Glove. He literally wears like one of those. And like this guy can literally like jack in and hack like any brain, any server. He can like hijack someone's like body and like make them kill themselves or make them do whatever. And like there's all this crazy shit, but like essentially in a short sentence, all that is the world. And they have this whole constable system where they, you know, people will go and like volunteer themselves to become a constable, and like when they go do that, it's part of the Flack Corporation, and that corporation will like fill them full of like all this cybernetics and like that nano serum and all that shit, and like they'll go from being like a weak person that like can't even lift like 10 pounds, right, to like a Superman freaking, like he just flicks your head and your head like falls off kind of deal. Like your head just flies, like super strong people, right? And they become like that. It's not like that super powered, it's a little more grounded and stuff, but that's the general idea. They're like these like tank like superhumans at that point. And basically what they end up becoming is they're just like,
Whoa.
oh wow.
That's a loud one.
It's a big plane. Essentially they I can't remember. I think they actually do have like a purpose, but like they're for the company. So essentially they become just these people that are like all juiced up and stuff, and then the corporation will like send them to do a bunch of shit. and like random stuff, you know, like go kill this guy, you know, go take care of like these like bounties and whatever, like this guy's causing problems in the city, like they're trying to start a revolution, go kill them, like end it, like they do shit like that, right? Just like maintaining order, but they're vicious, dude. And so like that's like a whole thing, right? And basically the story takes place around one of the constables and like his girlfriend, and basically they get sent to go to Tokyo and to kill this one warlord over there, because that warlord is like speaking of revolution, is speaking of like, oh, you know, no more technology and stuff like that, like the media and the information overload is like bad for us, we need to go back to nature and naturalism and like this and that. And then they get sent over there to go take care of like the warlord. And that's all I'm going to give, because the story kind of,
very interesting.
That's like the synopsis, like it all builds off of that and stuff. And like, I don't know, I love a story that starts, gives me the premise, shows me the world, and then it like completes its thought.
Yeah.
It doesn't just like, you know, I can't think of like an example off the top of my head. Well, really, honestly, I think a better one is like, even like man, that isn't really a good example. I can't think of one, but it just like a lot of stories, like there's a lot of stories that are, they create this world, they do this and that, but it's like if you're to like you can explain all the things that happen, and there's a lot that happen, but like you can still break it down in like one sentence.
Yeah.
Where it's like Lord of the Rings is a good example of this, where it's like, what is Lord of the Rings? It's like, oh, guys are trying to destroy a ring. Mm-hmm. Ring is bad.
Yeah, and it's like, well, yeah.
Well, what happens? And it's like, well, they go to the Black Gate, they deal with the Balrog, Gandalf freaking shall not passes, like, you know, you could break it down, dude. Like you.
But
could,
that's yeah.
Okay, like
that's how a good story is.
You can expand on it, but you can also break it down in one sentence. And like for me, when that's the case, I'm like, okay, like they had a thought, they built the world, they developed the characters, and they completed their thought for the story. Because it's like, you know, a story, like, yeah, there's this whole world and all that, but it's like the story is telling you this moment, this snapshot. So this snapshot, no matter how the world is developed around that,
it's concise.
It should be concise, and it should complete and conclude, and it should make sense. You know, again, I think this is another one of those things that over time, you know, the listeners, I think, will get what we get a little bit more. But that being said, Tokyo Ghost, with that being the synopsis, like I told you, with like the Flat Corporation and all that, like this story really did that nicely, and they also, you know, man, I really want to talk to you about it, dude, because
I'm gonna read it. So.
Yeah, there is like one aspect where I'm like, that's why they call it Tokyo Ghost.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like that's badass.
Well, color me intrigued, dude. Because like that whole synopsis, I'm like, okay, now I'm much more apt to read it.
It's really fucking dope, dude. And this is the thing too, like this is more like in the moment kind of details. Like a thing that it doesn't bother me, but it just comes across a little dorky in like some Western comics, is the way they do censorship. Mm-hmm. It can be a little weird. Where like you'll read like a comic that's DC, right? And there's like all this nudity and like whatever. But when someone like cusses or whatever, they like blurt that out.
You're like, what?
And I don't know if I'm maybe like misunderstanding how the like censorship rating is, and if there is a rating. Because I assume there is a rating for like even the comics and all that. The SRB's got to get their hands in there somewhere, you know? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think we need the SRB up in there.
No, we don't, dude.
Let them moderate themselves somehow if they're not already.
No, but needless to say, like, there's a interesting way that they do that, and like when there's a comic that's like pushing it, it's like whenever someone's like cussing or whatever, they're using like strong language, it comes across like really like just immature.
Yeah.
And like there is a bit of that in Tokyo Ghost. I was gonna say Ghoul. That's like completely different. There is a bit of that in Tokyo Ghost, but it supports the character the little bit that's there. Mm-hmm. And it also just kind of supports the world, because you're like, dude, everyone is like pretty fucking dumb. Like they have a lot of information in their head, yeah, because they're like constantly watching shit, but like their way of navigating that information is like incredibly like stupid. Mm. You know? And it's just like, like they make that pretty clear. Like, and there's this one moment where they make that pretty clear, but like, yeah, it's just the way it's written, and I think part of it's because it's like Image Comics. Like I think it like DC probably has its own like thing, and Marvel probably has its own thing. That's why they reach such a wide audience and stuff. But like Image Comics is where a lot of people will go to. Like I'm realizing, they'll go there to like do those stories that I assume DC and Marvel were like, that's not us. And so they go over there and they get to do that. Like Dark Horse is another one that like I've seen people like Hellboy's Dark Horse and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's just I don't know. There's that level of like just things coming across kind of immature and stuff in like some DC and Marvel comics when they're trying to be strong and mature and stuff. That like is not really there, because that's usually the thing that pushes me away from Western comics. Like that's the thing that you lose the heart on, because it's like this is like it's like okay, someone wrote this. Like when you read like a manga or whatever, and someone's like being very vulgar or whatever, like. It's usually written still with like heart and mindset in place, and it's realistic the way that someone is using the vulgar language.
Right.
So you don't get caught up on like, oh my god, this guy's just cussing to cuss, right? Like he just wants to sound cool or whatever the hell it is. It's like coming from an immature place.
Like early cyberpunk.
Yeah,
like show videos
yeah,
dude.
Like, where they're like,
this is ridiculous.
The fucking guy is getting fucking conked, and it's like, oh my god, dude, right? Like,
take it easy.
Take it easy. I get it. It's futuristic.
Yeah,
it's
I get
dirty.
it. You guys are irreverent. I got it.
Yeah, it's like. It goes so far, it becomes like they lose the point. It's a joke. Yeah, it becomes a joke.
Yeah.
Like mangas don't really have that. Western comics typically do, and these Image comics are the first like Western comics that I've been reading that I'm like, okay, like that is toned down a lot. Like they're able to actually like tell the story. They're able to be vulgar and have an irreverent character or whatever, and it comes across that way. It's not like, okay, the writer, I can tell, has a hang up and is like freaking trying to get this thought through, because that happens a lot with like Western comics, where you can tell the writer like has a certain opinion on society or the government or whatever the hell it is, and like they're really like beating a dead horse trying to like nail in how society is bad the way it is right now.
Yeah, and I'm unhappy, and you're like,
yeah,
okay,
and it's
I
like
get it, dude.
it's like I get it. You don't like it, okay? Like how
yeah.
about you commentate on society more than like just
maybe inspire through your writing.
Yeah, and like and that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is like Tokyo Ghost pretty clearly talks about like just how a lot of media is, and it's like it goes over all that stuff, and it goes over how like it was better when shit was simpler. Like we were healthier when it was simpler.
Yeah.
But it tells it in like, again, like it's a complete thought. It ends the way it does. And like, yeah, you can go off and like let your mind go crazy and like what happens next or what doesn't happen next or what this or that or whatever. But like at the end of the day, like it is a satiating story as it is. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Like it did not get to a point where I'm like, man, like, okay, is this going to end? Like what do you call it, like honestly, even the Batman, the one I'm about to talk about, Batman Master Race, like that did that a little bit. But yeah, Tokyo Ghost is fire. I highly recommend it. I'm starting to work through Rick Remender's stuff because I just really like how he writes. I like the illustrators he gets and
the
all
drawings
that
you're
stuff.
showing me, they look super cool.
It's really dope, dude.
That's like up my alley kind of drawings.
Yeah,
So
right now I'm working through 7 to Eternity, so I'll probably talk about that at some point once I'm done with it and stuff. But yeah, I'm stoked to do that. I want to read Low and Black Science and all that stuff. Those are his other ones. But
excellent. What's this other Batman you've been
so
reading?
this other one, Batman. Okay, so I'm sure everyone knows about Dark Knight Returns.
It's like
I'm sure everyone knows about Dark Knight Returns. It's like one of the most not important, it's an incredibly popular Batman comic, and it's highly regarded as like one of the Batman comics that got Batman the most right, and like, while also, doing his thing. But Dark Knight Returns takes place well, it's not even that it takes place. It surrounds Batman basically in his older age after he's already retired. Okay, you already know this, you read it, but like for the viewers and the listeners who don't know, Dark Knight Returns basically is Batman's retired, Gotham is not his city anymore, it's gotten overrun, all these gangs and stuff know Batman's like old and he's not doing anything, and so they start just monopolizing the city. They start going crazy, they start all these different gang wars and stuff. Gotham went back to the way it was, right, because Batman's not there anymore. And so Dark Knight Returns is literally that. It's literally the Dark Knight, like Batman's like, fuck man, I got to put the cowl back on, dude. Like I've been out for like 5 years, 10 years, however long it was, I can't remember. But he's like, I've been out for only like 10 years, dude. Like Commissioner Gordon's not the commissioner anymore. Like without both of us there, like the city's getting overrun. And so he puts the cowl back on, right? And that's all I'll say. If you haven't read it, read it. It's fucking awesome. But it's a really good comic, and it's Frank Miller's like whole Dark Knight series and like continuity. And that whole continuity has like a few things, but the main notable ones was like Batman Year One, Dark Knight Returns, and then the other sequels for that, which is Dark Knight Strikes Back, and then this one that I'm talking about, which is the Dark Knight Master Race. That's like the third one in the whole thing, in the like Dark Knight Returns, Batman's older kind of period. That's like the third story in it. And especially because you read Dark Knight Returns, well, before that, it was written by Frank Miller and Brian Azzarello. The artist was Andy Kubert and Klaus Janson, and then the colorist was Brad Anderson. And, you know, you read the first one and the artwork is really good. The colors are, you know, they work, they pop where they need to, and it works. Because that's one thing I'll say. Like they don't really do anything crazy with colors. It's not like wow, dude. Like Rick Remender's stuff so far does that far more. Where you look at a panel, you're like, oh my god, the color on this panel, dude. Like this is so cool.
I like that. It's more psychedelic, kind of sounds like.
In a sense,
like color wise, at least.
Yeah, in a sense, like in palette, yeah, it's more like satiating to the senses. There's more like, yeah, it's cooler with the color, but Batman Dark Knight Returns has really good art. It has really good drawings and stuff. It's very like comprehensive, and the story is fucking awesome. It's like it's a classic, and it is like a very like pivotal, influential comic for a reason. But then Dark Knight Strikes Again is like the drawings are fucking weird.
Yeah, that is a weird one.
The colors are like, I mean, it's kind of the same shit.
It's more zany.
I remember the colors being a little bit more poppy and more out there, like, but it's the story's all over the place, man. Like that
was a zany read for me.
Yeah, it felt odd because it was just all over the place. The drawings were weird, like especially coming right off of Dark Knight Returns.
That one's elegant.
You see how Batman's drawn? Yeah, and there's a level of class. There's a level of like
sophistication.
Yeah.
The other one is like zany, like
it's like, oh, we're drawing comics.
It's a little more irreverent.
Yeah, we're drawing comic characters, so let's draw comic.
It's more playful too.
Yes. And it's not as good, dude. Honestly, like
it didn't feel like it fit as much.
Yeah, going into Dark Knight Master Race, because when I read Dark Knight Strikes Back, Master Race wasn't even out yet. And I remember hearing that he was working on it at the time.
Oh, so this is like a newer one then.
Yeah, this came out like 2017 or something.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Good trip.
It's Dark Knight Strikes Back coming hot off the heels of like, because I read them pretty back to back when I read those, like Dark Knight Returns and Strikes Back. Like you read Dark Knight Returns, it has all that class and all that stuff we just described. Go to Dark Knight Strikes Back and it's just like none of that's there, and it is jarring as all hell when you read it back to back. And I remember reading Dark Knight Returns and I was like pulled into it. Like I was like leaning into my freaking comic book. I was like, dude, like, this is really good, right? And then I read Dark Knight Strikes Back and I remember just kind of going through the motions with that one because I was like, all right, like, because it just wasn't the same, dude. Like they made Robin like Catwoman or Catgirl or something, and I remember there's reason for it. Like there was story and plot reasons for all that, but like I don't know. I remember it just being kind of like whatever, dude. And like again, more importantly, I remember just going through the motions. But Batman Dark Knight Master Race for me, like the reason why I even got it was I was like, you know, I'm already this far.
Yeah, like I made it this way. Yeah.
I saw it on Amazon for I think it was like $20 or something, the hardcover, and I'm like, fuck it, let me buy it. Like let me just get that, read it, and be caught up on that. Fun fact, I actually found out in doing that, I was researching Master Race a bit, I found out apparently Frank Miller is like known at DC as like the worst writer of their entire like... Actually, I found funny. Like I'm like he made like the best Batman comic, like one of the best Batman comics of all time, like highly regarded as, you know. And he's like the worst writer. It's just like, how does that work? Like you guys consider him your worst writer? Why? I guess the reason why actually is probably because I haven't read like Batman versus Spawn and stuff like that, like his other like Batman comics and stuff. But like from what I heard, it was mainly because of the reason why even like Dark Knight Strikes Back sucked. was like sometimes he just bites off way more than he can chew, and he wants to have like way too many plot lines going on at once. And like when you're doing that, you got to think about the balance of the entire story. You got to think about what's the ultimate message I'm getting to, and how can I make these other plot lines like support that. And I don't think he really thinks about that. So I think he just gets kind of like yeah, I think he does that. But I think there's also a factor too, because I realized that when I was looking through like the credits essentially of these comics.
What are they doing? Like they're like
I know,
murdering
like
their dogs or something.
Like what the hell?
Like it's like give them some
give him some water. I mean,
give them some
shit.
kip. Give them some begging bacons.
Yeah, dude.
Lord knows they're begging.
Like, what are you like? I'm like, are you like murdering your dog back there, or like did a dog like freaking in heat walk by or some shit, dude?
Yeah, more than likely.
Dude, that was so funny to me when Zelda came here, dude. With, like all the dogs
gracious.
going crazy.
I was like, why did the
It's
neighborhood
like, why are
get a
they
little louder?
Yeah, like why are they freaking out? And then I'm like, oh,
I gotta get her spayed.
yeah, dude.
I love my Zelda.
Such a good girl. But yeah, all of that coming into Batman Master Race. I was like, I might as well read it. But I was also kind of excited, you know. But I had bought like a bunch of comics. Like I bought like Tokyo Ghost, like 7 to Eternity, a few others. But I bought a bunch of other comics and stuff. And then like I was like, okay, which ones do I want to go to first? So I'm like, let me start with the worst one and like work up to like the better ones. Because I like just from like what I've heard and what I read up, like what people say is like the better ones and stuff. Like let me just follow that and like experience what I experience. And so I started with Batman Dark Knight Returns on this last little like haul of comics I got, but like, dude, it was not as bad as everyone was saying. Like people were saying, oh, it's like Dark Knight Strikes Back, but like it's a little bit better and a little bit more focused. And then I was hearing some people say like, yeah, it returns to like the Dark Knight Returns form a little bit more, but you know, it's whatever. And like, dude,
Why are the loud ones so far away?
Fuck, I talked about this for so long, dude.
Yeah.
It's really good though.
Yeah.
Okay, it's really good. The art style actually, I looked at it side by side. It's not exact, but it goes back to like the Dark Knight Returns drawings like way more. So it feels proper again. I think the like overall plot line was actually really cool. I don't want to spoil for you, bud.
Well, no, don't say anything else. I mean, I think the listeners and I think we got.
But yeah, it's really dope. It's essentially just Batman pushing forward his whole crusade and all of that he started in Dark Knight Returns, where he's like, he created that whole like Bat like League of Assassins essentially. And it's just him like pushing that forward, but like now he's like really, really fucking old. Dude, there's some really cool moments in that one, dude. But yeah, dude, it's really badass. It's really dope. There's a lot of cool stuff. He's continuing the crusade, but he's like really, really old now, and so he's trying to like pass on the mantle is where it starts, and that's where you're at. And like,
I like it.
Because he needs to find like the legitimate Batman, because he's already experienced. He's like, the city needs a Batman. And so he's like creating this League of Assassins of like Batman. Like it's like the Bat family essentially, but it's really like the League of Assassins. But like he's running it, and like he's like the Ra's al Ghul essentially.
That's really cool.
And like it's him pushing all that, because that all started in the Dark Knight Returns, and like it's just, I don't know, it was really, I liked it a lot. I think it's honestly like a little bit less focused and a little bit less compelling and a little bit less interesting than Dark Knight Returns, but like that's saying a lot compared to like freaking Dark Knight Strikes Back, dude. That one was so. The more my brain goes over it, the more I'm like, man, I did not like that one. Like that one was so bad.
I told you when I read it, I'm like, that was the next one. You're like, yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's weird.
It didn't feel like it.
Like
I remember finishing Dark Knight Returns, dude, and then I remember going into Dark Knight Strikes Back, and I remember literally like I had to reread the beginning a few times because I'm like, wait. Like,
what's happening?
Where is this picking up from? Like,
Yeah.
Why is she not Robin? Is this her? And like they call her, it's like, I think her name was Cassie or something. Like it's the same name. I'm like, so that is her. Like. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, I don't get, like, there's a lot of things that were just unexplained. And that's actually one of the things that people say about Frank Miller is that, like, he fucks with the continuity a bit.
Yeah.
Because he just kind of makes shit happen. But he's not as bad as as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
BMB, dude. Freaking Brian Michael Bendis.
Literally his name.
Brandon Michael Bendis, Story to My Will, dude.
Well, it sounds like a good read. Not.
But yeah, I recommend it. In the grand scheme, I recommend it. If you like Dark Knight Returns, read Dark Knight Master Race. It's really good.
Excellent.
But,
hey,
yeah.
and you know what else is really good? This Intermission. And we're back. This is the third and final segment of Swircast, and I have a little, here, ask me what I've been doing this week. Ask me.
What have you been doing this week, bud?
Let me tell you. Are you sitting down?
I don't know.
Yeah, you should be sitting down for this.
Yeah,
really.
I should.
So I've been playing a little game called Cult of the Lamb. It was developed by a studio called Massive Monster, and the publisher was Devolver Digital. Okay, this was released August 11th, so this is about, a week ago at this point? Exactly a week ago.
Yep.
You know, well, actually, a week ago in a day. But you can get this on your Nintendo Switch, your PS4, your PS5, Xbox One, and your Series S and X. You can also get it on your PC. It's $24.99, and this game's pretty freaking awesome, dude. So I'll set the premise for you. I'll set the stage. You are a little lamb, and you are about to be killed and sacrificed by your cult, and then you do get killed. Okay, and they're sacrificing you to some god, greater god that they worship. You die. And then above this greater god is like the god, the one who waits. And he brings you back and goes, they killed you, but I can use you. I want you to work for me. And the little lamb's like, all right, let's do it, man. And so he brings him back to life. He goes, I'm going to give you a cult, and I want you to empower this cult, use them, okay, because I want to kill these 4 greater gods, so that way I can be freed and unimprisoned. And so you, as a little lamb, are going around.
I literally didn't even know.
And you're bringing in people into your cult. You know, you're indoctrinating them. You know, you're giving them a place to stay. You know, you're giving them some food. You're giving them things to do. And all the while, they're just worshiping you, giving them your divine intervention. You know, all this stuff. You know, because they're just sitting there praying. You know, you're collecting all of this, and you know, and you're preaching sermons. You know, you're doing rituals. You know, you're implementing doctrines.
Jesus, these flies.
Honestly, dude, very well thought out game. I think the premise is really creative.
It's really
cool,
and
I really like the whole, because it's very it's very Lovecraftian, the greater gods and all that kind of stuff, and I like the spin that they put on all of that, where they're like, okay, it is these cute, like aesthetically speaking, it's these cute little characters. You know, the game itself, it's like a top down, but it's like that 2D 3D kind of like artwork where a lot of the characters and a lot of the elements are 2D, but in a 3D space. So it's got
like
almost
Paper Mario.
It's got like a diorama kind of like look,
like Paper Mario.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, yeah, it's a lot like Paper Mario. And for me, I find it so cute, dude. Because it really juxtaposes the whole concept. Because as I'm telling you this, like, I'm sure if you don't have any idea or any visual to what this looks like, you're like, this game sounds horrible. Like
look
this
it
game,
up,
like this game sounds like it's like,
no, look it up.
And
it's
actually
cute.
no, it's really cute. Like, it's funnily enough, yeah, it's heavy topics, and yeah, it's pretty dark, but like. It's really cute.
It's heavy topic and concept and all that, but it's dealt with in a very playful manner.
but here's the cool part, is because it's, in terms of gameplay, it is a roguelite. Okay, and the way that it works is for those of you who are unfamiliar, you basically you go through these runs, you know, and there's certain things that persist, you know, typically in a roguelite nowadays, because that's why they call it roguelite. The light aspects make it so that you're like building up
all this shit's getting so nebulous nowadays, dude.
Right. But the rogue part is literally you start and you run and do your run through whatever procedurally generated whatchamahoo's it until you die. And when you die, you start again, and the goal being see how far you can get, how fast you
think
can
like
get.
a temple run even.
Yeah, exactly. Temple Run, think of, like Dead Cells, think about like Rogue Legacy, like those kind of games. So this has that element. And then the other element is like a world building, like management sim, where you have a physical spot where you can actually put your cult, and it's like you can put your temple, and you're like, oh, this is where my berries are at, so that way I can cook them and feed my
You have
followers.
like a little town.
Yeah, you create your little cult town, like your village, and you build that out with using the resources you get on your runs. Within like that area that you're in, you can like break down certain things to get materials and all of that. And that all plays directly into the former part I was telling you about, where you're the rogue part of it, where you're going through your explorations and all that. The way that's broken down is you've got 4 different like biomes, if you will, and you unlock them in order. And as you go through them, the whole goal is to kill one of those greater gods at the end. And along the way, you've got your procedurally generated map and all of that. It is so well made, and in terms of the combat, what I'll say so far...
Do you have to refight like bosses and stuff each round? Like if you get certain like distance down it? Or?
So the way that it works within the... for instance, the first one was called Darkwood, like the first like biome you can go to. And the greater god is called Leshy. So you got to kill Leshy in order to like complete that biome. But the door to Leshy has like 4 different segments to it that you got to kill, like these like other like mini bosses, if you will, along the way.
That's dope.
And when you kill those, they're really just like, they're basically, what's the word, cult followers for that greater god's cult, that he is like imbued with some sort of like demonic power that makes him like a monster. So like, for instance, I came across this one guy, and like it was like this like a worm kind of looking like enemy, but like big sized, and he was throwing all this stuff at me. Like I finally like defeated him, and then he like goes and he turns into like a little character. He's like, oh, I don't know what happened. Oh, what happened? You go up to him, and you're like, don't worry, you'll join my cult, and you send him back to your cult. And he's all like, oh, thank you. And then you go to your cult, and he's like sitting there waiting for indoctrination. You go up to him, you touch him, you're like, you're now part of my cult, and you give him like the tunic and all that. You give him the rundown. You can look at his traits, all the breakdown for all that, and then you can put him to work. Because they're a resource. They will. You can put him to go and say like, hey, go to the lumber yard, and then he's over there cutting down lumber. You can be like, oh, this one, go over there and go pray, and that one prays and gives you divine intervention, which is like a statistic that allows you to level up. And then when you each amount of like experiences you get, if you will, you gain 1 divine intervention. You can like unlock stuff for your cult. The sermons, the way those work is you basically are collecting another resource from them in order to empower yourself further. Rituals are so you can manage some of your town stats, like your faith or your hunger, because your townspeople get hungry and they lose faith. And if they lose faith, then they start revolting. They start doing stuff that is not too good. It's a problem. And so I had this one little feller that started.
I think you were telling me about this.
Yeah, he got a little hungry. It started with that. Okay, and then he started getting a little angry because he's like, I want to question this. I don't know if I believe this lamb. Okay, and then he was officially a dissenter.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, and this guy is running around my cult, telling everyone that I ain't who I am. And so there's a couple ways I could deal with that. There's one, I could re-educate him, which helps to boost his faith a little. Basically, you're slowing the clock a little bit, because if you don't handle this, he's gonna leave, or he's gonna do something. Like, it's not gonna be good for your cult. And so you re-educate him, and then I had to decide whether I wanted to kill him, or if I wanted to to sacrifice him, or if I wanted to like invest in him, so that way like I could like keep him there, like be nice to him, kind of thing. So I decided I wanted to sacrifice him. I was like, to do this I have to unlock a couple things, and so I went on some runs, got some resources. All the while I'm literally getting notifications that this fool's back there just dissenting. And then I finally was able to like get rid of him, like to like sacrifice him. And right when I unlocked the sacrifice, he was like, he hit that limit, and he was all like, "Screw this, I'm out," and he left and stole money. I was like, that little. Oh my god, I was gonna handle
Dude,
you.
that'd be so dope if you could like find him later on.
I'm
like, in one of
hoping
your
I can,
runs.
because I've heard of some things that happen in this where like this. I was reading about this one guy that had a dissenter, did sacrifice him, then like and taught like doctrines and sermons that taught people that there was an afterlife and he had the power to bring him back. Then he brought him back, and then he like imbued him and gave him more powers and like made him like a stronger like follower. And then like when he was at the top, he murdered him again and then made everyone eat his like body. You can go. They let you do whatever, and that's the cool thing about this game. You know how you play a lot of other games and they're like, this is an interesting situation. If you do this, this will happen. But if you do this, this will happen. In this game, they're like, oh, and then here's something, and you're like, well, what do I do with this? And they're like, I don't know.
Do you want to do something with it?
Do you want to do something with it?
I don't really want to do anything.
And I'm like,
all right, then don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. And then what I've been doing is everything that pops up, I'm like, okay, let me do it. Let me see what this does. And
Damn,
so
I gotta check this out. I'm like,
it's so creative.
I'm like,
dude.
I just haven't had time recently.
It's
I've
so
been caught
creative.
Up with other stuff, but
what I'll say is the rogue aspects too, like the roguelite like battling aspects. I feel personally that they're pretty honed in, dude. Like when I'm playing it, I've seen people complain where they're like the hitboxes, this and that, and I personally have not experienced any of that. Okay, what I think people are perceiving as hitbox issues is really just not. And granted, the readability is there. They could probably quality of life it a little bit, but the enemies do telegraph their moves very well, and they do this like white like build up flash before they're about to do their attack. The way that after I mentioned the way that the aesthetic is, that like diorama kind of like 2D Paper Mario. Do you remember what
of the perspective?
So think about this. It does not feel like this. Obviously, it's much better. But there is like a little element of that. Do you remember like in like a Paper Mario 1000-Year Door when you would go to initiate a battle with someone and you would like, it would feel like you were a little behind them and so you would whiff the hit?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's what people are perceiving a little bit of, because there is a tiny amount of that.
You're gonna get that with that kind of art style.
Yeah, but honestly, like it's very well mitigated. Like I always felt like I was in control, and when I did get hit, I felt like it was my fault. The one thing I will say is that it does, and it can, and I bet you that adds to it, can get a little busy on screen. But
you're like, what the hell?
But that to me is just challenge. Like I'm like, okay, how do I conquer this room? And to me, again, like I said, I haven't had any problem. It felt like the difficulty was honed in.
The combat looked like Hades, from what I saw.
I liked it a little more than Hades, because Hades is much more combat oriented. They still have they have all the building and all that out too, which is phenomenal. But with Hades, I felt like, and this does lead to like one of my favorite parts of Cult of the Lamb. With Hades, it's much more in depth, and that's not necessarily to its chagrin. Like I just don't personally gravitate towards that in a roguelite so much. Because what ends up happening is your runs end up getting way too long.
And this is the thing, is in that depth, I think a big part of it was like in Hades, there was a lot of like, work on upgrading this, and like each time you upgrade it, you'll get 0.5% of like a boost on this. And like you gotta like do that a million times, obviously being hyperbolic, but you gotta do it a lot to like be able to like feel that benefit.
Yeah, this is it's everything is so tightly interlinked. The town building, like management sim, and then the roguelite part is so well integrated. It keeps shocking me how well they thought this out.
Yeah,
you can tell they put a lot of thought into how these systems work. I never feel like I'm not growing or doing something or progressing, because I'm not. I am progressing. And my favorite part of the game is the runs, in terms of how short they are. I have done like runs where I'm like, all right, let me go after this boss, and I have like all the aforementioned like 4 sections locked off for that, or unlocked for that Leshy fight. Let me go for it, and as I'm going for it, I go the whole run, finish it, and it took me 11 minutes. Like that's a good run length. I failed a run that was a 5-minute failure. So it's like, and you do gain stuff. It's a typical, you die, before your run's supposed to end, and like you miss out on resources, that kind of thing. Your cult followers are like, oh man, our glorious leader fell in battle. That's our faith goes down. I mean, like he died, you know. But if you come back and you're successful, everyone's like, you know, you're like,
oh, you're the best.
You're like, yes, and you come in and you start blessing everyone. You know, you're like, yeah, I bless you and I bless you, and I found this necklace. Here you go, and he levels up. He gives you some like commandment tablets, and you're like, yes,
you get a blessing.
New doctrine.
You get a
like,
blessing.
Yeah, literally, you know. And so that part's great, and there's just so much detail, dude. Like, for instance, when you come into your like cult like following area, like your town, there is that like statue in the middle where they like worship at, and that's where you go to get your divine intervention, so you can do like those aforementioned level ups. Well, that's your worship statue, but when you're like in the Darkwood, for example, like Darkwoods is Leshy's like territory, you know, and you'll come across like his like worship statues, and you can go over there and steal like all of the divine intervention that people prayed at for him, and then like tear down like his freaking like statues and stuff. It's like it's weirdly epic. You're like, yeah, screw this guy. I'm the god. Like, I'm the exactly like, my god. You know, like, so you're doing that. So there's stuff like that that's just really cool. The characters are very well written. They're very the characters got a lot of character, you know. And there's a cool overworld map, which for me, I wasn't expecting that. Like, there's a lot of things where I'm like, I didn't expect you guys to do that, you know. So there's like your cult, then you can go to like other areas where I found this like place. I forget what it was called. It's called Pilgrim's Passage or something, but it's like a seaside town with like these little like these dudes that are there, and they're inside there. I walked into their little like temple or whatever, and they're in there, and it's like pretty dark in there. There's like not much lighting, and they're like praying to like their god to like light the furnace, because they're like, we need our furnace on, like we have not had light for so long, like, and we're praying to our god, and like the light won't turn on. What are you doing here? I can't see you. Like, I don't have the furnace. That's why we're praying to our god. And I'm like, I go up to the furnace, and it's like put in 15 lumber to turn on their fire, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's see what happens, right? So I throw some lumber in there, and then like the fire goes on. They're like, yes, the fire is on finally. Like, our God sent this lamb to light our fire. Like, we praise you, lamb. And they start like praising me, and they're like, we'll help you. And so I can go over there. I can get like cards. I can buy like resources and stuff. They're all like, oh, the great lamb. Like, thank you so much for helping me. And I'm like, yeah, of course, don't worry about it. I'm like 15 lumber. It's no big deal. You know, but
I gotta
it's
check
a lot
it out,
of
dude.
fun, and it's you know, I have a blast playing it. You know, it's aesthetically, like I said, very pleasing. I'm playing it on PS5, and just like the haptics, like feedback, they don't have like, well, actually, let me pull it back a little. The haptics, they don't have like on triggers and stuff, but like the vibration, like haptics and all that are pretty cool. Like, you could tell they really are. They're pumping that vibration all the way up, dude. I like that. So stuff like that, and I think the last thing that I'd like to touch on with that game is the soundtrack.
Oh, dude.
The soundtrack for this game.
I haven't played the game, but I watched you start the game up, and I was like, dude, the music's really good. I want to check out the soundtrack. And like, I haven't played the game yet, dude, but I've been listening to that soundtrack a lot.
That soundtrack is so good. It's like an EDM.
I think a good way of putting it too. Like,
so
it didn't. It's not quite like it, but it's almost like GoldenEye pause music, where it's like, you didn't need to make it this good, guys.
That's what it feels like. Yeah,
like you didn't need, like.
I'll be like just tearing down like trees and stuff, and I'm like, it's like all my head, dude. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta listen to this right now. Like,
no, the music's fuck. I want to listen to it.
It's so good. But anyway, Cult of the Lamb. You know, for those of you who are listening, go check it out. What are you doing? It's $24.99.
What are you doing with your life?
What are you doing? Go start a cult or something. Okay? Or join mine. Where heavens know.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's a game by... Is it just some... Did you go over the developer and stuff?
I did. You can repeat it. It's all good.
Just to repeat. It's a game from... the developer is Massive Monster. And the publisher is Devolver Digital.
Yes.
I think that's really the bigger one. Devolver tends to get... really good developers for all their stuff.
And they tend to help produce and bring to life a lot of these like edge case kind of game concepts.
like everyone's turning that game down.
Yeah, because just think about like the way I opened it up explaining it. Like, a lot of people would be like, well, I don't know if like that makes me uncomfortable. Which, I mean, I get it.
I just think of like Hotline Miami.
But the game's awesome.
I think of like Hotline Miami. Wasn't that Katana Zero another Devolver game?
Yeah, dude, Devolver's got
There's like
so
that
many
carrion
games.
game. I'm just thinking of the ones that are like really different.
Yeah.
You know, like to your point.
Yeah, they're like, I feel like Devolver's almost like, for lack of a better example off the top of my head, they feel like the A24 of indie games.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, if you guys haven't played Hotline Miami for some godforsaken reason, if
Play
you've
it.
never played Hotline Miami,
At least.
the first one,
Yes.
because there's only two. Neither of them are too long. They're actually really good length. But what ends up happening is you end up taking a while because they are kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But it's not like an unapproachable difficult.
It's like a From
You know.
Software difficult, honestly. In a lot of ways. It's like just study this room and like figure out how to conquer it. It's a puzzle.
To a point, because it's that, but it's also like, it's more like a Call of Duty, like difficult, I would say, where it's like, okay, like just learn to react a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I guess it's both.
That's his take.
I think the camera just turned off. But without
hey.
further ado, you know, we're gonna end this here. I'm sorry there's no footage.
Hey, but hey, friendly reminder, join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/SwirMedia, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. We want to thank you for joining us today. It's been a great time. I had a good time.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
We got our information a little bit better from last week.
I hope you can feel the organization that we've been putting in, the efforts, as it were.
I hope it really exudes
Yeah.
through the wave.
Hey, you enjoy your Sunday and the week thereforth. Until next time.